Welcome to this week's edition of Staying Connected. Before we get started today, just a couple things that I want to make you aware of. We have opened up a virtual online prayer room. It's a Zoom meeting that anybody is welcome to attend. You can come and go as you please. We have new times for that. And so beginning this week, it'll be Tuesdays at 7 p.m. and also on Sunday at 11 a.m., which is following our Sunday morning worship service. So we're seeing that, especially the Sunday morning one, as just like having the prayer room open here at church. You'll be able to go to church and then join into the prayer room if you have something you want to pray for, have a prayer request, just have a need. You can come into that place and there'll be people ready to pray with you. Also, we did our first praise and worship night this last Sunday night, right out here on the lawn and in our small parking lot. It was really a great time. We had about 100 people here, a little under 100 people here, socially distanced, wearing masks, and just singing to the Lord and hearing a devotion. And so if you weren't able to participate in that, we encourage you to come. We have room. We think we can accommodate quite a few more with still the social distancing because we're using the parking lot. And so our next one is on not this Sunday, August 16th, but it'll be the following Sunday, August 23rd. And so on August 23rd, 6 p.m. right here at CCTO for a prayer and praise night. You can come together for that. Marty Milligan's got a devotion for us today out of Genesis chapter 1. God bless all of you.
Well, hello, everyone. Over this past weekend, I had the opportunity to do a little home restoration project. In our backside patio, this cement patio, we had this long, winding crack in the cement. And in our minds, probably exaggerated a little bit, this looked more like a canyon than it did an actual crack. And to make things worse, over the years, from what we could tell, previous owners had come through and tried to do some things to fix it. And what that really ended up in was just these mounds of cement that were just kind of molded over the crack in different places that never actually really covered it and ended up just making this mess. And so my job was to go through to grind out some of those areas, to expose that crack for exactly what it was, to then go through, fill it with new cement, level it out as best as I could, and then paint that back patio. And what's amazing is that by the time you're done, in the end, something that was a mess, something that was old and broken, ends up looking new, or at least as new as I can make something on my budget and my skill level, which isn't really very much. Now, from what I've heard in conversations, many of you have been doing some similar things. We have a little bit more time at home, and so maybe some of those restoration projects that we've been putting on the shelf, there's been this space now to do some of those things. Well, the reason that I've been thinking about this idea of making something new is because just recently, in my own time and in my own study with God, I've started to go through the book of Genesis. And of course, at the very beginning of Genesis, what we have is the creation narrative. And whenever we read the creation narrative, most of the time we approach it as God creating something out of nothing, which is, of course, one way to read that. But another way that we can look at that is by seeing that God is creating something new out of something that was chaos. And we see that really in Genesis 1:1-3 in the New Revised Standard Version. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. And then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And so it has this formless void and this darkness over the deep. And those words, those images really created the idea of chaos, because for the people at the time, that idea of a void or the deep, the oceans, really were a symbol of chaos. And so what we have is God, represented by this wind, his spirit, sweeping over the deep and making something new out of this formlessness and out of this chaos. And Genesis 1 can really be viewed as a story directed to Israel at a time when they were in exile. And now the creation story to a people in exile would have been incredibly good news. It would have given them hope that this God who sets himself up as a creator is still actually doing creating works, restoring things, and making things new. And that's a hope, of course, that we carry with us still today. Genesis shows us that God is a creating God. And shows us that he is the one that is always making things new. And that's a theme that's really carried throughout the Bible. We always see this idea of God making things new. And ultimately we see that in the fact that God restores and redeems us, makes us new through the work of Jesus. And we see that in 2 Corinthians 5:17. So if anyone is in Christ, there is a new creation. Everything old has passed away. See, everything has become new. Now, I wouldn't necessarily compare our situation that we're in right now to exile, but we are definitely in a time of chaos. And those types of chaos can really instill in us a longing and a hope for something to come out of it that might be new. And we've seen that right now in our society because there's this hope for a new spirit of justice and of equality. And any time that we see that, we know that God is always at work to bring about justice. And we have the opportunity to join with him and to be a part of that very work. But maybe this time that we're in right now, it's also a time for a new work that God might want to do in our own lives as well. See, this is a time where God could come in and restore something new in us, to create something new in us, to do a new work of growth in our lives. And so we go back to this idea of our home projects, because you might even take this idea of something being made new and take it literally. So I would encourage some of you, find something around your home, find something that you have that you might be able to restore or make new. It doesn't have to be a giant project, it could be something really small. And see, the truth is that a lot of times physical and spiritual things can really go together if we allow them to. So while you're doing this work, take the time and be asking God what he might want to make new in you, what he might want to work on, what he might want to restore in who you are. And then allow God to start doing what God is always prone to do because of his character. Allow him to do a new work in you. And so I want to just leave you with a couple questions. And the first one is this: what new work could God do in your life to make you more like Jesus in both your character and in your actions? What new work could God do within you? And the second question: what hope do you need restored and reassured during this time of chaos by a God who's always at work making things new? You see, God is still a creating God. And in this time, my hope is that we might open ourselves up to a work that God might accomplish both in us and then through us. I hope that's an encouragement to you. Grace and peace to all of you, and we'll see you again soon.